All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're expecting a really great turnout today, so that's exciting. I'd like to just formally introduce you to Alex Kajatani, otherwise known as the Rapin mathematician. Among many other things, he's an author. He's a previous California Teacher of the Year. So he has a lot of knowledge to share with us today and how to make math interesting, engaging, and cool for our students. Before I hand it off to Alex, just a reminder to everyone just to make sure you stay on mute unless you are sharing out in the group. There are also times that we will ask for audience participation. So feel free to just raise your electronic hand so we make sure to call on you so that everybody is heard. All right. So with that, take it away, Alex.
All right. Well, thank you so very much. What an absolute honor it is to be here with all of you. I know you had many things that you could be doing on a night like tonight, but you chose to spend it here with us. So for that, I'm truly grateful, and we are going to make it totally worth your time. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I think the most important thing to know about me really is has already been said. I am an educator, just like everybody in this room today or with us on the Zoom. Most of my career, I've been right here at Mission Middle School, which is located in the city of Escondido, California, in Northeast San Diego. Before I was a middle school teacher, I will say I spent 3 years as a math tutor. So I know we've got a lot of math tutors on with us tonight, and you are my people. And I hope by the end you will know that I am one of yours. But again, most of my career right here at Mission Middle School. Here's a picture of some of our fabulous students. 85% of our students are Latinx, 10% are white, 5% are Black, 80% are English language learners, most of whom come directly from Mexico. And on paper, we're often referred to as being in one of California's fastest growing high poverty neighborhoods. But we've begun to rebrand that as being in one of California's most culturally rich neighborhoods, because we absolutely are. And so, as you heard a moment ago, I am known around the world now as the Rapin mathematician, but I did not start out that way, nor was it something I ever sought out to be. Several years ago, I was a new teacher, just absolutely struggling to survive in my classroom. I couldn't seem to get my students to pay attention. I couldn't seem to get them to sit still, and I certainly couldn't get them to, remember the math I had just taught them 5 minutes ago. But what I realized is a rap song would come out on Monday, and by Tuesday, they seemed to have every single word memorized. And so I thought, okay, I got to play on this strength, right? And so one day we were studying adding and subtracting decimals. I wrote a rap song called The Itty Bitty Dot about the decimal point. I went home, I practiced all night, I admit, in front of my mirror at times. And I thought to myself, I am going to be the man when I come into school tomorrow. Now, if you know anything about middle school, I see some of you chuckling already. You already know how this story turns out. Let's just say I was not the man, not even close. But nevertheless, I got everything ready the next morning. I got in there. The students came in. I busted out the itty bitty dot, as you have most likely already predicted. It was a disaster. My students began laughing at me hysterically, and I'll never forget, I had one student, Josue Hernandez. He was laughing so hard, he began clutching his stomach and shaking. He fell out of his chair, hit his head on the carpet. I had to send him to the nurse for an ice pack. And so I thought, okay, I see exactly where my career is going, right? Yesterday, they wouldn't pay attention to me. Tomorrow, I'll be looking for a new job. Today, they're laughing at me. But I kind of blew it off and went about my day. And then a really interesting thing happened later. I was walking to the teacher's lounge for lunch. I walked by the student lunch tables. They were all singing the itty bitty dot. And even the ones who were not in my class were kind of singing along with the ones who were. And the next day, something which had never happened to me happened. They actually came excited to be in my class. I think for the first time ever, they ran into my class with the same amount of energy that they normally use for running out of my class with. And they were saying things like, oh, Mr. Kajatani, are you going to rap again? Yesterday was the best day ever in math class. And Josue, whose head was all healed now from falling out of his chair, he actually asked me if I was going to quit teaching and be on MTV full time. And so you're about to see why MTV has not called and probably never will. But I'll tell you what, at the end of the week, my students' test scores on adding and subtracting decimals absolutely shot through the roof. And so I like to say I've been math rapping ever since. So this is totally embarrassing. I'm going to put myself out there and show you a video that my students made of the first song I ever attempted, the Itty Bitty Dot. I promise you my dance moves have gotten much better since filming this. Okay, I still cannot dance, but hard to believe this video has gotten over 250,000 views on YouTube. And along with the other rap and math videos that you can check out, I think they've gotten a combined 2 or 3 million views and are now being used in homes and classrooms all over the world to help engage kids in math and make math cool and interesting. So here it is. Be gentle on me, okay? Remember, I'm a teacher who tried to rap, not a rapper who tried to teach. But here it is, the Itty Bitty Dot. Make sure to turn your volume up on this one.
Now what in the world is that itty bitty dot? Yo, I just can't remember and it's making me distraught. I saw it in the price of the item I just bought. It's the decimal point. Yeah, now you're getting hot. When you add and subtract them, there must be a rule. So listen to my rhyme and use it as a tool. Just line up the dot and give it all you got. I said line up the dot and give it all you got. And when you take the difference, in other words subtraction, just use the same rule and bring on the action. Just line up the dot and give it all you got. Come on, line up the dot and give it all you got. So turn off the TV, forget the radio station, cause the itty bitty dot is a math sensation. Move it to the right and the number becomes greater, and the itty bitty dot needs no translator. Move it to the left and the number gets smaller. Yes, the itty bitty dot is an academic scholar. So don't forget the rule, which needs no revision, cause the itty bitty dot is on a great big mission. Line up the dot, give it all you got. Line up the dot, give it all you got. And thus this concludes the decimal song. With the rapping mathematician, you can't go wrong. Just line up the dot and give it all you got. I said line up the dot and give it all you got. Just line up the dot and give it all you got. Come on, line up the dot and give it all you got. Just line up the dot and give it all you got. I said line up the dot and give it all you got. Just line up the dot and give it all you got. Come on, line up the dot and give it all you got.
Here comes the big spin. There it was. All right. Thank you. Thank you. And you will never forget how to add and subtract decimals ever again. Okay. I've got 3 personal goals for all of us this afternoon. The first goal, of course, is that you get some inspiration out of our time together. I know that the work that we do as educators, especially as math educators, whether we're teaching in our own classroom, whether we're helping support other teachers, whether we're tutoring one-on-one, I know that the work that we do is the most important work that happens across the planet every single day. And so I hope that you'll get to dinner tonight and say, wow, that was a great hour I spent. I am so inspired. I hope you get some inspiration. The second goal, of course, that I have is implementation, that you get some real things that you can use immediately in your next session, in your next class, in your next one-on-one, whatever. I want to give you real things you can actually do, you can actually say with your students to help impact your teaching and, as stated, to make it interesting, engaging, and cool. And the third goal, of course, I have is that nobody sits there thinking, geez, I wish this guy would hurry up. I really have to pee. So don't worry, okay? We're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it grooving. We're going to end on time. We're going to make sure this is one of those online trainings, not one of those online trainings. And if you've been on enough online trainings, don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. So along with inspiration and implementation, we are going for no constipation today, okay? That is my deep, deep commitment to all of you. If at any point you see something up here that you want to take a picture of, that you want to take a screenshot of, hey, go for it, go for it, go for it. At the end, I'm going to share with you a QR code that you can use to get, and a link that you can use to get all of the slides. So if you miss something, don't worry, we got you covered. But look, everything I'm going to share with you, I basically took from teachers just like you. So take it, adapt it, make it your own, own it, and share it with somebody else. It's all good. So inspiration, implementation, and no constipation. And please remember, this is a buffet, not a fixed menu, okay? I am not here to tell you everything you've been teaching is wrong and you got to use my 12-step system. Nothing like that. I don't have a 12-step system. Just like at a buffet, you try to eat everything, you're going to get a stomachache. Take a few things that work for you, let a few things pass you by, try some new recipes on some old classics, but again, you take what works for you. So I want to start by actually hearing from you. And I've got this question up here, and I want you to think about it. And when you've got an answer, type it into the chat, and Laura is going to read some of the answers out. But based on your experience or your experiences so far, what is your biggest challenge with teaching math? Think about it, type it into the chat, and Laura's going to read some of them out for us. What is your biggest challenge with teaching math?
Start reading some of them out. Student apathy, that kids think that math is hard and are afraid of it. Getting students interested, that students don't have the pre-knowledge to learn today's lesson, kind of similar lack of foundation, lack of focus, having to go back multiple years in math to explain something. Getting students to be brave enough to tell you what they're thinking about a problem. The range of student abilities, I'm assuming in a classroom, so being able to engage all levels. Usually they think after addition, subtraction, and division, what's the purpose of it? That middle school doesn't matter. It's from a student perspective. Students that need help maybe don't want help. Maintaining that attention span. Students might come in with invisible earplugs.
All right, give us two more.
Okay. Many have given up before even starting, and different math levels in class.
All right, thank you. And I'm sure there were others, or I know that there are others, and we're going to try to hit as many of these as we can. I was able to jot down, as Laura was saying, just some of the key words that I heard. Now, here's what I heard: apathy, afraid, interested, pre-knowledge, focus, foundation, brave, range of abilities, purpose, right? Notice, nobody said that their biggest challenge was teaching how to add fractions with unlike denominators, right? Nobody said that it was getting students to memorize the quadratic formula. So much of math and so much of the challenges of teaching math is simply our attitudes toward math, right? The way that we were taught math, the way that we think about math. It's not necessarily the, carry the 4 and bring down the 6 kind of stuff, but it's all of the stuff that happens really before the math is actually ever even put in front of us. And so what I'm really excited to share with you today are really 6 lessons that I've learned along the way. I started teaching in 2001, so 22 years ago, and I've taught math every year since, and so I've learned some things along the way, and I want to share them with you. Maybe you've learned some of these things, maybe you've learned some additional things, some different, but the first one that I've learned is that if you act like it's cool, then it will be, right? We have got to be the #1 believers that the stuff that we are talking about is actually pretty cool. Even if you don't totally love it, if you act like it's at least cool, eventually your students are going to think that it's cool as well. And there's no way students are going to like what we're talking about if we ourselves don't really, really believe it. There's a famous quote by author Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, "That which we are all the while teaching." Yes, we teach math and we teach standards, but really what we are teaching our students first and foremost is who we are, and how we decide to approach math is how they are going to decide to approach math. If you act like it's cool, then it will be. So here's what I want you to do. Picture in your mind right now a mathematician. Go ahead. Picture in your mind a mathematician. What does a mathematician look like? Just picture it in your mind. Think about it. What does a mathematician look like? You were thinking it, right? Come on. The pocket protector, the thick glasses, the disheveled look, right? And then, of course, what do we do when somebody's good at math? We call him a nerd. We call him a geek. I don't know if there's any 90s kids out there. You remember Steve Urkel, right? He was on a show called Family Matters. He was kind of your classic nerd. He was in love with the girl down the street named Laura, who wanted nothing to do with him unless, of course, she needed help with her math homework. Then she'd call Steve Urkel. If you're an 80s kid like me, you might remember Revenge of the Nerds. This movie was so popular, they actually made part 2 and part 3. And one of my favorites, I saw this during tax season last year. It's an ad for a tax company. No math required. Start your free federal return. Like you're really going to do your taxes with no math required. Have we become a society that is so terrified of mathematics that we will just pay somebody to make all of those numbers go away? Somehow in our society, it's become okay to have been bad at math. I can't tell you the number of parent conferences I've sat through where, I'll say, well, your kid is really struggling in class. And the parent will say, oh yeah, they got that from me as well, right? Or they got that from me too. I wasn't good at math either. We got to stop. We got to put an end to this. And it starts with us, right? It starts with us and our attitudes about math. Again, if we think that it's cool, if we just act like it's cool, eventually the students are going to think that it's pretty cool as well. If you act like it's cool, then it will be. The second lesson that I've learned along the way is that when it comes to teaching math, relationships rule. It is really, really hard to love math if you don't have a good relationship with your teacher. And it doesn't have to be a teacher that you spend hours with every week. It can just be someone you spend a few minutes with. But, in every math class, whether it's a tutoring session, there are really 4 relationships that happen every moment of every math class, right? There's the student's relationship with themselves. There's the student's relationship with other students. It's really hard to focus on converting decimals to percentages when you've just gotten in a fight with your friend on the playground. There's the student's relationship with math. As a lot of us stated when I asked what our biggest challenge was, right? A lot of them, they don't have the foundational skills, or they lack some of the foundational skills. And so they walk in already thinking that they're not good at math, already thinking that they hate math. And that is a real challenge. And then, of course, there is the relationship with the adults that they're working with. That's all of us. And that's the one that I want to focus on the most right now, because it's the one that we know that we have the greatest control over. And we know that it has the greatest effect on student achievement. And that is your relationship with the student. Of course, let's be honest here, right? There's what you think teaching math is. To you, it looks like this. We're Yoda. We're going to guide young Skywalker, right? And then, of course, there's what some students think teaching math is. To them, it looks more like this. Same exact situation, totally different perspective. And that perspective has everything to do with your relationship with the student while you're teaching the math. And so I'm going to share with you, this is one of my favorite things to do. Here is this easiest, simplest, most straightforward way to build relationship with students. All you got to know is one thing about them. That's it, just one, okay? One thing about their favorite hobby or something that they like. Now, knowing it is good, but it's not enough. You got to bring it up from time to time, okay? Knowing what their interest is great, but it's not enough. You got to bring it up. So I just keep a list by my desk. By the way, that is not a picture of my desk. That's just a stock photo that I'm using to impress you. My desk is a total mess right now. You should see everything behind my computer. However, I know that if we're talking about fractions today, I can just look at the list and go, hey, Lila, I know that you really love cooking, right? Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking about fractions, and fractions are a huge part of cooking. You're going to love today's lesson. Hey, Mateo, you like soccer, right? Yeah. Well, I know guess what? We're going to be talking about distance and angles. So you're going to really see a lot of soccer in the work that we're doing. Nico, Cara, Miles, you guys love Minecraft and coding, right? We're going to be talking about coding today. Today is all about you, right? Instead of trying to take the curriculum and forcing it into the students' lives, what if we took the students' lives and what they love and what they're interested in and see if we can put it into the math? And so I know what you're wondering. How do you get this data? Well, I'm glad you asked, because along with being the rapping mathematician, I also happen to be the math magician. And so I'm going to daze and astound you with my math magical powers. And don't worry, I'm going to share this with you, but I'm going to attempt to guess some of your birthdays, okay? Now, here's what I want you to do. First, I want you to look down my magic chart, okay? Now, I do not care about the month. I do not care about the year. I just want you to look down each column. And if the day that you were born appears under the letter, then I want you to write down that or make note of that letter that is at the top of the column. And you're going to do this for every single letter that your birthday appears under. So let me give you an example. I was born on the 15th. If you look under the M, you will see there is no 15 under the M. So you would not write that. You do not write down the M. I was born, or excuse me, there is a 15 under the A. So A is one of my letters. G is also one of my letters because there's a 15. There's a 15 under the I and under the C. So my magic letters are A, G, I, and C. I need to know every letter that your birthday appears under. Of course, that's not enough. I also need to know your favorite food and your favorite activity, like your favorite hobby to do. So if you will write those 3 things down, and when you are ready, simply raise your virtual hand. Laura will call on you. You can unmute yourself, and I will attempt to, based on this information, guess your birthday. So let me know when you're ready. Laura, I'll leave it up to you to pick who gets to go first.
Mandy, go ahead.
All right, Mandy, go ahead and unmute yourself. Mandy, where are you joining us from today?
Orange County, California.
Ooh, all right, I grew up in Irvine. All right.
Know it well.
All right, Mandy, what is your favorite food?
Ramen.
Ooh, very nice. And what are your magic letters?
M and G.
Okay, and what is your favorite activity to do?
Swimming, because I'm from Irvine.
I hear that. And you said M and G, right?
Yes.
Okay, and let's see, from Orange County. You were definitely born toward the end of the month, but not all the way at the end of the month. It's coming to me. Were you born on the 20th?
I was.
What? How did he do that? Yes, the math magician strikes again. All right, Laura, who you got up next? Let's go. Bring it.
Catherine or Stacy. Go ahead.
All right, Stacy, go ahead and unmute yourself. There you are. All right.
Right.
Where are you joining us from today?
San Diego.
All right, very nice. And what is your favorite activity to do?
Writing.
Writing. Okay, and your magic letters?
G.
Say that again.
G.
Okay, and your favorite food?
Mac and cheese.
Ooh, mac and cheesers are always born toward the beginning of the month. Were you born on the 4th?
Yes.
What? How did he do that? Okay, I could do this all night long. And I will say that by now, some of the students actually start accusing me of going into the computer and memorizing in advance their birthdays. However, clearly it has nothing to do with your favorite food or your favorite activity. It has something to do with the letters. But I use this information, right? Now I know Mandy's favorite food and favorite activity, right? I can say, oh my gosh, I was eating, ramen last night, or I was eating mac and cheese last night and I thought of you, or, oh, have you tried that new ramen place over on Grand Avenue, right? Or, hey, oh my gosh, I know you love reading. I read this really great book, right? Now we're building the relationship. All right, some of you might know the trick already. I'm going to show you really quickly. All I'm doing is I'm looking at the number that is directly below the letter that you told me were your magic letters. And I'm taking all your magic letters and I'm adding up the number I'm adding up the numbers that are directly below each letter, right? So if you said that your letters were M and G, I took the 16 under the M, the 4 under the G, added them together and guessed 20. If you said that your magic letters were G and C, I would look at the 4 and I would look at the 1. 4 plus 1 is 5, and I would guess 5. If you want to download this chart so that you can use it with your own students, you're welcome to do that, but it'll also be in the packet. But if you go to bit.ly/birthday magic chart, I just learned you have to capitalize the B, the M, and the C in birthday magic chart. Bit.ly is case sensitive. So anyway, take a picture of that, whatever you want to do, but you can do this too. Now think about it, right? It takes, with one of your students, I don't know, a minute or two, And yet now your student is going, wow, this is so cool. And so is my teacher. Sometimes if you're teaching in a class, some of the students will already know how to do it. And you'll see them, they'll start to whisper to their friends how to do it. And you'll see it sort of getting passed around. That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. That's exactly what we want. Remember, if you act like it's cool, eventually it will be. But are there any questions on this before I move on how to calculate and figure out someone's birthday? So one more time, if somebody says that their letters are A and I, then you would take the 8 under the A, the 2 under the I, and then you would guess 10. But of course, you know, I like to, you'll notice I like to ask the food first, then go to the letters, then the activity. I'll scrunch the letter thing in the middle so that it's not as obvious that's what I'm working off of. All right, relationships rule. The third lesson that I've learned along the way is, and this is really critical, to remember that seeing and hearing are different, right? It's kind of a weird thing with math sometimes, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but it's important to remember that some kids are able to do math really well or better when they're able to see the numbers. Some kids need to hear the numbers, and some kids are very kinesthetic, so they need to maybe write the numbers or make motions with their hands, right? And so here's what I've seen happen over and over again, right? Let's say we're working on multiplication, okay? And we're doing flashcards, and the kids are doing, and they're looking and they're seeing 8 times 7, right? And over and over again, they're seeing on the board or they're seeing on the flashcards 8 times 7, and they're seeing that the answer is 56. Well, maybe they're really good at learning it through seeing, not necessarily through hearing, right? And so they're seeing the flashcards over and over again, but then we see them in the hall as they're walking to lunch, and we go, hey, what's 8 times 7? All of a sudden, they're totally used to, they've got it. We know they had it in class because they were seeing the numbers. All of a sudden, we're hitting them with something through their ears, and they're like, 8 times 7, and it's a totally different way of processing the information. And so they go, and they freak out and they go, I don't know. And then we think, oh man, we just did all that work, and now they don't know what 8 times 7 is, when really they do know what 8 times 7 is. It's just that they need to see it. My own daughter, she really struggles with hearing numbers. And so basically what we did was we taught her to, when I would say something like, what's 8 times 7, she would picture a screen right in front of her, and she would picture the numbers 8 times 7. And so you could see her, I'd go, hey, what's 8 times 7? And you'd see her go, 56, right? And then she could say that. Some kids, they really need to get kinesthetic with it. Some kids, while we're jumping rope, they're thinking about, we're talking about what's 8 times 7 while their body is actually moving. Some kids, they might draw it out with their finger. 8 times 7 is 56, right? Or whatever they need to do. But again, just be mindful. Some kids learn best by seeing the numbers. Some kids learn best by hearing the numbers. Not even kids, just adults, right? Some kids need to be moving around while they're learning the math. And so it's being able to tap into what it is that the students need in order to really process the information. Obviously, the best is if we can show them the numbers, if we can say the numbers out loud, and if we can get them moving around the classroom. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but I want to stop. Are there any questions, anything that needs to be clarified on some of the first lessons or on any of this? Feel free to raise your hand, put something in the chat, unmute yourself. Where are we at? Just want to check in. Maybe you're also dazed and astounded by the birthday magic that you're still like, wow, that was so amazing. Okay. Like I said, if at any point, please, I'm here to answer questions, and this is all about you. So we'll get whatever it is that you need answered. Okay. So remember, seeing and hearing are different, especially if we are tutoring somebody online. It becomes really critical, right? It's really hard to hear math. Think about it this way. I'll just make one more point. Pretty much by now, most of us use GPS or we use Siri in order to navigate, right? So we pull it up on our phone. We've got the screen, which is showing us where to go. And then Siri's voice or whoever you use is telling us where to go. You want to really challenge yourself? try covering up your screen and just listening to Siri tell you where to go. It's really, really hard, right? But when you have a visual, when you can see the map with all the lines showing you which way to go, now it becomes a lot easier. You want to double challenge yourself? Look at the screen, but turn the volume off and just try to go by the screen. Don't do that. You'll probably crash your car, right? The best way to get to where you're going using GPS is to be able to see it as well as to be able to hear it. So I hope that I've made my point with that. Seeing and hearing are different. All right, number 4, we often present math as a problem, right? Hey, do problems number 14 through 74, 1 through 14, right? Or we call them word problems, right? What if we presented math as a puzzle, not necessarily as a problem? What if every math problem was a little puzzle that we had to sort out, a little puzzle that we had to try to make happen? Once again, let's welcome back the math magician. Grab a little piece of paper or something to write with, because I am about to read your mind. Are you ready? Okay. I want everybody here to think of a secret number. If you are confident, you could do this in your head, no problem, but you might want to write it down. We're just going to go through about 5 steps. So think of a secret number, any number at all, write it down. Don't tell me, don't tell the people around you. Whatever number comes to mind, just think of a secret number, okay? Everybody got something? Okay, now I want you to take your secret number and add 5 to get a new answer. Add 5 to get a new answer. Okay, you got your new answer? Now, take your new answer and I want you to double it, also known as multiplying by 2. So take your new answer, double it, or multiply it by 2 to get a new answer. Okay, got your new answer? Please remember, my math magical powers only work on those who do their math correctly. Okay, so you got your new answer after doubling it? Take your new answer and subtract 4. New answer minus 4. Okay, got your new answer? Take your new answer and cut it in half, also known as divide it by 2. Take your new answer and cut it in half. Okay. Take your new answer and subtract your secret number, whatever you started with. So your new answer minus your secret number. Almost there. Okay, now take your new answer and circle it, or just make a mental note of it. Take your new answer and circle it, because I am going to attempt to read all of your minds through this screen. I believe that your final answer you've circled is a 3. How'd I do? How'd I do? Give me a thumbs. Okay, excellent. All right, here's what we're going to do. I am going to remain silent for 2 minutes. We're all going to be silent for 2 minutes. And I'm just going to give you a chance to see if you can figure out, how did I do that? You can try a different number. You can draw pictures. You can phone a friend, whatever you want to do. I'm going to start my timer. I'm going to give you 2 minutes on your paper. Just see, does it work if you start with a negative number? Does it work if you use a fraction or a decimal? See if you can figure out, how did Alex do that? I'm going to give you a couple minutes, right? I'm going to give you literally 2 minutes. So starting my timer now, go ahead, do whatever you need to do. See if you can figure it out. Here we go. Karina, we'll give everybody a minute or so, and then you can jump on in. Got about 30 seconds left. All right, wrapping up in 10. We've got 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. Was it Garino? Did you have your hand raised? Did you want to unmute and say something?
Yes, hi. You just calculate the middle part where we don't add any secret number or anything. The answer will always be 3. And you ask to add our secret number and then subtract it. So if that number kind of it's 0, right? So the part you gave us, it will always be 3. So answer is 3.
Oh, very nice. Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in or tell us what they're thinking about?
We have a few equations in the chat.
Okay, let's see. Let me pull up the chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put the secret number to be X and just solve it with the X.
Look at that, Dave, with the algorithm that rocks the house. Very impressive. Very nice. Yep, that's very cool. Will's got some good steps in there. Jerome's got the algorithm as well. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can solve this, right? I mean, one of the coolest things that I've done with my students is we'll get out manipulatives, right? And they'll start with, manipulatives, and they'll take them away and they'll divide by 2, things like that. We can use an algorithm. There's, of course, the super simple way that we just talked about, right? We think of a secret number, and then, of course, at the end, we subtract the secret number. So it's like you don't even do those 2 steps, right? If you always start with something and then you take it away, it's like it was never there. So then we just look at the middle part, like Garima, am I saying that correctly? Garima? So we start with that middle part, right? We start by adding 5. So that means we start with 5. Then we're going to double it, which means 5 doubles to 10. After that, we're going to subtract 4. 10 minus 4, of course, is 6. And then when we cut it in half, we get 3. Now, wow. Think about what we've just done, right? Think about what we've just spent the last 5 minutes doing. We weren't solving a problem. There was no problem here that needed to be solved. We were solving a puzzle, right? We were engaging in this mathematical process where we were doing some math. We were talking about some math. What's really cool also is when you do something like this with your students, you can see exactly who knows how to add 5, right? If the students start struggling on adding 5, and you say, okay, think of a secret number and add 5, and their hands go up and they start going, okay, wait, I need help. Now you know exactly what to work on with your students, right? If you say double it and the students don't know what that means, now you know, okay, doubling is sometimes, another phrase for multiplying by 2. If your students have trouble, it can easily add 5, but they struggle with multiplying by 2 or dividing by 2, now you know, okay, my students are pretty good at adding or subtracting, but maybe they need some help with multiplication. And so this is a really great formative and informal assessment as well. The more help your students, or that wherever your students need help, that's great information for you to solve the puzzle of what it is that they need to know and where it is that they're going. Many of you when naming your biggest challenge said, you've got these different students at different levels in your class. And so this is a way to kind of figure out quickly who needs help with what. So I've got a bunch of different math magic tricks that I use. Remember, math is a puzzle, not a problem. And puzzles, we all love doing puzzles. Puzzles are kind of fun. All right, number 5, when we're teaching math, when we're working with students, we really got to be able to ask good questions, right? I love what Costa and Kalick say. They say that careful, intentional, and mindful questioning is one of the most powerful tools a skillful teacher possesses. This is so, so critical. Students give us information all the time. When we ask questions about that information, we're taking that information and we're saying, all right, let's take it to a higher level. There's a great book called Good Questions for Math Teaching. And in there, they really point out 6 fundamentals of asking good questions. The first one is good questions, great questions. They help students make sense of the content, right? That's really critical. So we ask a question, a good question forces the students to look back at their work and start to make sense of the content. Great questions are usually open-ended, right? They've got lots of different answers and approaches. A great question does not have an answer of 5. A great question does not have an answer of, 3.2. Maybe you've been hanging out with a friend of yours and they've asked you a question, and you've asked them a question, and they go, ooh, that's a great question, right? Probably the answer is not 5, but they're open-ended. Third, great questions really help to empower students to unravel their misconceptions. We ask a question and the student goes, oh, okay, I get it now. Or, oh, I thought it was this way, but no, actually now I realize that it's this way, right? That's something that's really critical that students do is they unravel their own misconceptions. Fourth, great questions encourage students to make connections and generalizations. So we ask a student a question, they answer it, and they go, okay, so anytime I'm doing this, it also means I'm doing this. Or, okay, so whenever I have the fraction, an improper fraction, I can convert it. I can convert it to a mixed number. Yes, okay, that's what great questions do. Great questions are accessible to all students, right? We might have to have 3 different versions of the same question, one that we ask to our advanced students, one that we ask to our mainstream students, and one that we ask to maybe our English learners, right? So sometimes it's about asking the same question, but maybe a little bit different way so that it's accessible to everybody. And 6, great questions lead students to wonder, and they lead to more questions. I guess basically what I'm saying is, what great questions help students do is that they help students think deeper, and they help students keep on thinking. When we ask a great question, we realize the thinking is only just beginning. So I'm going to give you some real questions, some great questions that are easy to ask that you can put into your mental Rolodex of strategies. I get to be in classrooms all the time working with teachers. So here are 2 scenarios that play out in classrooms and tutoring sessions all over the world every single day. Here's the first one. You have just taught an incredible lesson. It was amazing, right? It was an Oscar-worthy performance. They laughed, they cried, they cheered, they wildly, right? And then a student calls you over and says, what do I do? Do not answer this question. Don't tell them what to do. If you tell them what to do, what you're basically saying is, you don't have to pay attention because I'm going to give you a private session on exactly what you need to know, or what to do. Instead, answer with this question. Well, what do you notice? Maybe you look down at the paper. Maybe you point to the rest of the class. Maybe you point to your board or your screen and you say, what do you notice? And you can tell I'm a middle school teacher. Don't let them say, I notice I don't know what to do, right? Just say, what do you notice? And then do one of the hardest things that there is to do for a teacher. Be quiet. Don't jump in. Don't answer the question for them. What do I do? What do you notice? And let them answer it, okay? Here's the next one. This is critical. A student calls you over and points to their answer and says, is this right? If you say yes, you just shut down the conversation. If you say no, you just shut down the conversation. Instead, answer with this question. Well, hey, how do you know your answer is reasonable? And then, like I said, do the hardest thing that there is for teachers to do. Be quiet. Let them answer. Let them come up with something. Not to oversimplify it, but let's say the question is, what's 6 plus 5? And the student gets the answer 11. And they say, 11, is this right? And you say, how do you know your answer is reasonable? Now they've got to think about it. Maybe they'll say something like, well, I know that 5 plus 5 is 10, and 6 plus 5 is going to be a little bit more than 5 plus 5. So the answer I got, 11, is a little bit more than 10. So that seems reasonable to me. Maybe they'll say, well, 6 plus 6 is 12, and 6 plus 5 is going to be a little bit less, and 11 is a little bit less than 12. You're going to get all sorts of answers, right? Have the patience, have the courage to say, how do you know your answer is reasonable? Here are some other ones. If you're going to take a picture of the screen, this is it right here, right? Put these questions into your mental Rolodex of strategies. Here are some other great questions. Student answers, well, hey, why do you think that? Or how did you figure that out? Or maybe it's, who has a different idea? Or how would you explain your answer to somebody who disagreed? Another one that somebody told me about recently is to simply say, how do you know? How do you know? Imagine that, right? Student does a math puzzle or problem and comes up with an answer. And instead of getting the answer confirmed, you just say, how do you know? Now in their explanation, now having to verbalize that explanation, they're thinking deeper. They're thinking at a much, much deeper level. Are there any questions that should be added to this list that you know of? If there are, put them in the chat box, and I would love to read them. I was just going to, William is saying, how can you check your answer? And Will, not to call you out, but you said WODB is a good exercise for open-ended questions. And would you be willing to unmute yourself and just expand on that a little bit?
Sure. I like WODB because you can say, what do you think is a reasonable choice as to what is different in this group of items? And
what does WODB stand for?
Which one doesn't belong?
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, there it is. Thanks, Laura. Okay, so sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. Tell us about that.
So it's a great set of exercises, math, geometry, numbers, all kinds of things, sometimes just visual imagery. And it lets them look at 4 items and say, what is different about one of those items? I'll say, upper right. Why do you think that's different from the other 3? And they'll give me some reason. I'll say, that's terrific. Now, why is the lower left one different? It makes them think about things other than just numbers.
Yeah, love that. One of these things is not like the other. Sorry, it's an old Sesame Street reference if you're back. All right, Jerome, what next step does this suggest? Would you be willing to unmute and just expand on that a little bit? I like that one.
Well, just that if if it's enough of an open-ended problem, usually you have you may have an answer to that question, but oftentimes that would result in like another question, or another step.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I like that a lot. And I like how you bring up that there's always a next step, right? There's always a next level that you can bring the answer to, right? And even if you're at a loss, or if the student's at a loss and you're not sure what to say, like no matter what answer they get, you can always say something like, ooh, what would twice that amount be, right? You could just kind of get creative. You could just have fun with it. It's just a puzzle to be solved. All right, here's another thing that I want to bring up, which is after we ask a question or when we're talking, we want to try to respond ASAP. Now, I don't mean as soon as possible, although that is important as well. What I like to say is we want to respond as specific as possible. Now, this is where you have to get a little bit creative as a teacher. You got to push yourself a little bit, but instead of saying, let's say the answer is, $10,000. Instead of just saying, ooh, that's a lot of money, what if you said, wow, that's enough for 100 people to have $100 each? Now the student has to go, oh, wait a minute, 100 times 100 is 10,000? Wow, right? Instead of just saying, nice job, what if you got a little more specific and said, wow, hey, I really like the way you simplified that fraction, if the student was simplifying a fraction, right? Instead of just saying nice job, Tell them exactly what they did well. Tell them exactly what they did correctly. Nice job converting that fraction to a decimal, right? Nice job, identifying the denominator in that mixed number, whatever it is, you get the picture. But responding as specific as possible. Instead of just saying, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, take it a little bit further, push yourself a little bit further and say, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, but for division, or I'll see you tomorrow for division, but tomorrow it's with remainders. Ooh, right? Everybody loves a good cliffhanger. We all get hooked on Netflix series where we just got to watch one more because we're so intrigued with what's going to happen next. Well, what if we were working on division, but tomorrow it's going to be with remainders? Ooh, okay. Maybe it's not the coolest thing in the whole world, but remember, if you act like it's cool, eventually it will be. Ask good questions. And the sixth and final thing, I want to give you a quick bonus, right? We've got a little time here. So I just want to give you a quick bonus lesson that I've learned along the way. And that is that sometimes, not always, but sometimes competence has to come before confidence, right? Especially with math. Look, as teachers, we spend a lot of time making it cool, right? Talking about how awesome math is. And hey, I'm the rapping mathematician, guilty as charged. But sometimes what skyrockets kids' confidence in math is just making sure they know how to do the math, right? This is my daughter, Senna. When she was in 3rd grade, she was bombing in math. And so I was working with the teacher. Turns out she didn't know her times tables, right? They were working on finding the area of a rectangle or something. She couldn't get past what's 3 times 5. So I was like, oh, no problem. I can help her with that. So she gets home later that day. I get home later that day. I was like, oh, honey, I talked to your teacher. It turns out, maybe you're just struggling with your times tables. Dad's a math teacher. I can help you with that. And so, turns out I can teach 5 classes a day, 30 kids per class. Way easier than teaching your own one kid. Am I right? Come on, parents. Way easier than teaching your own one kid. So there were a lot of tears with teaching those times tables, a lot of tears. My daughter cried a little bit also from time to time, but eventually we got those suckers knocked out. I was actually in her class a couple months later. They were starting with division and skip counting. She was very confident, raising her hand because she had the competence, right? I love this quote by Dr. Donald Crawford, who said, and if only one operation is learned to fluency or automaticity, it must be multiplication. Multiplication facts are needed for multiplication problems, division problems, and most importantly, fractions. Students who are not automatic with multiplication facts can't follow what's going on when shown how to reduce fractions, find equivalent fractions, or even add or subtract unlike fractions. And if they can't learn fractions, they won't succeed in algebra, right? Sometimes we've got to be able to get kids the competence, and that's when their confidence skyrockets. Lisa Delpit, one of our most prolific education authors, wrote a fabulous book titled Multiplication is for White People. She got the idea for the title of this book. She was volunteering in a 3rd grade classroom. She says to a young African-American child, hey, let's work on your times tables. He looks at her and says, I don't do multiplication. Multiplication is for white people, right? By 3rd grade, he'd already received the messages that the higher level stuff was not reserved for him. And Delpit goes on in her book to say that one cannot divorce the teaching of basic skills from the demands of critical thinking, right? Obviously, I'm not saying don't teach critical thinking. I'm saying it becomes a whole lot easier when students can work on or know that have some of those foundational skills. So that's why I'm on a mission now to help and make sure every kid in America masters their times tables, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm going to skip that for now. All right, the final lesson that I've learned along the way is that as educators teaching math, we just got to make it real, right? Our students know when we're faking it, and they know that in order for the math to be real, we've got to make it real. Again, stop trying to take the curriculum and force it into your students' lives, and instead take your students' lives and see where it fits into the curriculum. Now, I will admit, some days after a long, hard day of teaching, I go to the taco shop across the street from my school and I get a big old burrito for the drive home, right? So the other day I'm going through and I see that they've put this sign up in the window. I'm going to zoom in on the sign for you. It says, customer pricing notice. A 70-cent customer service charge is applied to all store sales. Cash discount. As an incentive for customers, we now provide a discount to pay with cash or in-store gift card by giving a 70-cent immediate discount. Pay by cash and save. Ooh, I was irate. First of all, that is not a discount, right? As the students say, they're jacking up the price 70 cents, and then they don't want to pay the credit card fees. So if you don't use a credit card and you pay cash, they take the 70 cents off. They give it to you for regular price. That's not a discount. And if you look very closely, it says a 0.70 cent. It's not even mathematically correct, the people who made the sign. They're saying it's 0.7 of a cent. You're going to tell me you're going to charge 0.7 of a cent extra? No, they didn't even get the math right. Well, everybody's got a camera in their pocket these days, right? I took a picture of it. I brought it in. I put it in front of my students the next day, just like I'm doing with you. We had an incredible conversation about place value, about percentages, about discounts, about credit card fees, right? You know what else I learned? The students go to the same taco shop. So they go to the taco shop and they show their aunt or their uncle or their abuelita or their friends the sign, and they talk about it. That is the greatest thing that could possibly happen to a math teacher, that students go to a taco shop and they talk about the stuff that you talked about in math class at the taco shop. There is nothing better. Use the camera. If you see something that is relevant to your students in their lives, nothing will make it more engaging, more interesting, and more cool than if it is already a part of their world. Why do we even need math, right? We need math to relate. You got to be able to relate numbers to yourself. You got to be able to relate numbers to other numbers. Oh, sorry. I know many of us are in California, and Mandy, you're in Orange County. So there we go. That's a little bit more like it, right? Okay, there we go. We relate numbers to other numbers. And of course, we're constantly relating numbers to the world in order to make decisions. Teaching kids to just be curious, right? Hey, I was wondering, how are you using math while you're reading or while you're skateboarding or while you're doing art or while you're playing video games, while you're cooking? Just taking a moment to ask those questions makes the math real. It makes the stuff that they're doing in their life real as well. And so, okay, I'm going to start to close things out, but here's one of my favorite games. You got to try playing this. You can call it anything you want. I call it the Math Professor. You could call it Stump the Teacher, whatever, but I just say to my students, okay, I believe that there is nothing that does not have something to do with math. And if the students can think of something that that I can't somehow relate to math, they can win a prize. And so, middle school, same stuff every year. The students bring up ketchup and we talk about we talk about calories and cost production and price of ketchup. Or my students are really into soccer, so we talk about distance and angles and keeping score. I will admit once I was almost stumped. A student said, Mr. Kachitani, I know something that has nothing to do with math. I said, what? They said, love. I said, huh. And I couldn't think of anything. And just as I was about to admit defeat and hand out prizes, another student said, I know what love has to do with math. I said, what? They said, when you're in love, that could be very expensive. And another student said, I know. I said, what? They said, in math, 1 + 1 = 2. But if you're in love and you're not careful, 1 + 1 might equal 3. That's when I had to use two words all teachers and tutors must at some point use: moving on. Listen, I never, ever, ever, we're going to save plenty of time to talk about you and what your questions and things like that. But I never, ever, ever want to be the speaker that you hear from and you never hear from them again. So please email me at any time with your questions, whatever I can do. Let's make today the beginning of a conversation, not the end of it. You can get a hold of me through my website. You can check out some of the books that I've written. If you're on social media, hook me up. Like let's follow each other on Instagram or send me a friend request on Facebook. I love to post like more math magic tricks and just stuff that keeps educators just engaged and motivated all year long. So love to just spread a bunch of good ideas and things like that. So please, please, please hit me up on that. Also, as promised, I am on a mission to help every kid master their times tables. So if you know a kid who needs help, multiplicationnation.com. It's a wildly popular. It's totally, totally free for anybody, anywhere. All you have to do is sign up and you get full access. It's really fun videos, Yes, the Rapid Mathematician makes appearances and things like that. So if you know a kid or a class full of kids or family or whatever, I will not stop until every kid masters their times tables, because I know it would change mathematics education in our country if every kid walked in knowing their times table. So please, please, please check out multiplicationnation.com. And as promised, if you want to download today's slides, have it all there. If you just hit that QR code, you just fill in your information and you'll get emailed all of today's slides. You can also use the bit.ly link there, slides from Alex, and that should go as well. So before I go to the next slide, I'll just give you a chance to click on that if you want to. And I think I can put it in the chat also. I think I got it. Let's see, bit.ly/slides from Alex. I think that should do it. So if you click on that, you should be able to get all of the information. Okay, I said from the beginning, this is a buffet, not a fixed menu. So what did you take? What is on your plate right now? Before we get to your questions, and before we continue the discussion, in the chat box, tell us one thing that you are taking from today. Hopefully you have more than one thing, but what's one thing that is on your plate that you just can't wait to dive into? We'll bring Laura back on to read off some of the answers. Laura? Looks like Puiho saying, thank you for a wonderful presentation. Ah, thank you. Laura, I'll leave it to you to tell us what's going on in the chat there.
The ASAP, finding out students' interests, open-ended questions, applying magic, math is a puzzle, multiplication nation,
All right, got another one. Yes.
keep a list of interests and eyesight. Look for real-world examples of material, a question about the opening, asking questions and being silent, relationship building, seeing versus hearing,
Yeah.
puzzles like Wordle with math.
Very nice. All right, give us one more to close us out here. Maybe that was the last one.
Making it real.
Ooh, that's a great place to stop. Okay, we got about 10 minutes left. I would love to hear, what are your questions? What are your comments? What are your thoughts? What are your challenges? What can we answer for you? And let's make this next 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes, just all about you and what it is that you need. You can raise your virtual hand and Laura will recognize you. You can unmute yourself, but let's go deeper. What you thinking about out there?
I do
Laura,
have a question that I don't see any.
Go ahead.
I said I don't see any hands, but you're
Wow.
welcome to put questions in the chat.
All
as
questions
well.
about math have been answered. That's fantastic. Wonderful.
Yeah. So while everyone's still kind of processing, and maybe we'll have some questions before we close. Alex, just wanted to thank you so much for this really great presentation. I think everyone is walking away with more than one great strategy today. So thank you. I want to thank everyone for participating today. We really look forward to hearing just about how you're going to use these strategies that you learned today with your students. And just a reminder that we will be having a follow-up discussion about today's session about 2 weeks down the line on November 8th at 4:30. So don't forget to register for that. And then Laura has shared a link in the chat, just a quick survey about today's session. So please take a moment to complete, as your feedback is always important to us. Okay. I think, do you have any other questions here? We have one from Nahom.
I'll definitely finish this off with one of my favorite math jokes. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So what do you do if your student doesn't have the pre-knowledge necessary?
Oh yeah, that's one of math education's great questions, right? Because we have a choice to make, right? A lot of times students, they come in, they don't have the pre-knowledge that's necessary. I mean, I'm an algebra teacher. I've students often come in, and so we have this choice, like, do we stop and teach the pre-knowledge that they need to know, in which case we struggle to ever get to the curriculum that we need to teach, or do we roar ahead and keep on teaching it? And then the students never seem like they fully grasp it because they don't have those pre-knowledge skills. And so what I like to do, and this takes a little bit of practice, but I call it backfilling, right? So what you do is you teach what you need to teach, and then you go, okay, in order to really understand this, you've got to be able to, and then you sort of talk about the skills that are necessary in order to do the skill that you're teaching, right? So let's say you're working with a student, and I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, let's say, I don't want to oversimplify it. Let's say you're working on long division with a student, but the student doesn't know how to subtract, or it struggles to subtract, right? So you're saying, okay, so you show them how to do long division, but then at some point they have to subtract, 57 minus 33 or 32 in order to keep on regrouping. And so you go, okay, so in order to get that, you need to know how to subtract. Do you know how to subtract? And then they say no. And now you say, okay, great. Well, that's an opportunity for me to show you how to do that, right? And so they've basically given you permission now to show you, let me rephrase that. They've basically given you permission now for you to explain to them how to do it. And they see it as, okay, I got to know this skill in order to be able to do what we're talking about now. So they're way more motivated to learn that. Now, I know it's not always that easy. I know it's not always that simple as a 30-second answer, but think about, you go ahead and then you turn and you go, okay, and it's a good conversation to have with the class too. Okay, in order to do long division, now that we've done a few problems, what are the skills that you need and in order to do this? And some of the students will go, oh, you need to be able to subtract, or you need to be able to skip count, or you need to be able to multiply. And so you show the students the skills that they need in order to do the work at grade level. A lot of times students, they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand why. They don't know why they can't do long division, or they can't add fractions, or they don't understand the stuff. But when we show them that, oh, it's just that you need these building blocks in order to do that, they become a whole lot clearer and a lot more motivated on learning the stuff that they need to know. Again, I know it's not that easy. Sometimes we have students who have tremendous gaps in their knowledge, but the first step is just pointing out to them what it is that they're missing.
Thank you, Alex. I think we have 5 more minutes. We have time for just one more question. It's a great one from Frank. When you were a new teacher, what was the biggest challenge and how did you overcome it? We have a lot of new teachers and tutors here today.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, and congratulations on becoming a teacher or being a pursuer. I've got a great book coming up in February called I Just Got a Teaching Job, What's Next? So I can't wait to share that with everybody. But I think I'm going to move away from being math specific right now. But I would say that my biggest challenge as a new teacher was not working all the time and taking the time to take care of myself. And having teaching is one of those jobs that is all consuming. It's one of those jobs where you can always find more to do. You're always thinking about it. And so being able to turn it off, I guess. And for some people, that means, a 5-minute meditation at lunchtime to be able to turn it off. For me, it meant I never did anything that had to do with school on Saturdays, right? Saturdays was off limits. Even if I had nothing to do, I was not allowed to do anything that had to do with school on Saturdays. And then, everybody would say to me, oh, your first year is really tough. Your second year is tough. But by the third year, everything comes together and you're rolling. Now, that's true to an extent. But it really is like after you do it a couple times, everything gets a whole lot easier. And so just hang in there, keep going. But you know, really, if you can, put some stops in place to sort of turn it off and be able to just kind of refresh and rejuvenate your soul. The other thing that you can do, and this is one of the things that's most critical, is surround yourself with the best people possible, right? You know, probably sitting in your staff meeting, or you know, sitting in the teacher's lounge, who the teachers are that you would like to get to know better, and who the teachers are that you would like to absolutely avoid because they're maybe toxic, right? Go to the teachers that you really like being around. Go to the teachers who you think have good ideas, and just ask them questions. Hey, how do you teach this? Or how do you manage your classroom? Or I'd love to come in on my prep period and watch you teach sometime, right? Surround yourself with really good teachers, because those are the ones who you're going to start to be like and act like and teach like. And they're also the ones who are going to keep you motivated as the days and years go on. So build a team around you, right? Think of yourself as a tree, and the people around you are your root system, right? What determines whether a tree weathers a storm? It's not the size of the tree. It's not the age of the tree. It's how strong that tree's roots are. And the people around you are your root system. So clearly, clearly, as I can see, you've got Carolyn on your team, you got Laura on your team, you got Angel on your team, and so you've got already people, you've got the root system in place. Now just continue to build on that, and water those roots and take care of them, because that's what's going to get you through those first few years.
Okay, thank you, Alex. For those of any of us who have been teaching for a while, that's very sage advice. So thank you, Alex. You went deep there. So thank you. All right. So Alex, you wanted to close with a joke, right?
All right, here you go. You ready? In addition to being the rapping mathematician and the math magician, I also happen to be the math comedian. So here's your closing joke for the night. So a man decides that he is going to go to a convention in town, and the name of the convention is the Convention for People Who Are Bad at Math. So he goes, yeah, that sounds interesting. So he goes to the convention, he goes and he's listening to the speaker, and the speaker says, all right, I need one volunteer. And the guy raises his hand. He says, you, sir, come on up here. So he goes up, he's up there with the speaker, and the speaker says, all right, I'm going to give you an opportunity to win $100. The guy says, okay, great. He says, all you have to do is answer one simple math question. The guy says, okay, great. The speaker says, what is 1,000 plus 1,500? Remember, the name of this convention is the Convention for People Who Are Bad at Math. The guy, 1,000 plus 1,500. The guy thinks about it for a while, and he says, 2,000. Speaker says, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. The crowd starts chanting, give him another chance. Give him another chance. The guy says, okay, I'm going to give you another chance. He says, what is 500 plus 600? Guy thinks about it for a while. He goes, 500 plus 600, that's 1,000. Speaker says, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. The crowd starts chanting, give him another chance. Give him another chance. Guys, speaker says, okay, I'm going to give you one last chance to win $100. Here you go. What is 100 plus 100? Guy thinks about it for a while, and he says, 200. And the crowd starts chanting, give him another chance. Give him another chance. Remember, if you act like it's cool, then it will be. I'll be here all night. Thank you so much, everybody. Big thanks to NCorps and everybody who made this happen. And seriously, hit me up on social media. Reach out anytime. Consider me one of your roots. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
So much. That was great. Thank you, Alex. Thanks, everyone, for being here.
Thanks so much, everybody. I'll hang out for a little bit till everyone's gone. All right.